I believe our team was very talented and intelligent and hardworking, and that gave a lot of optimism ahead of this project. We had a healthy respect for each other's abilities. Although I question whether that led us being unable to challenge each other or ourselves on key ideas and instead opt for the path of least resistance when debating the gift problem, the presentation, or academic and business concepts attached to the project. This was perhaps evident because of the team's composition. Three of the team had worked together previously on EMBA projects, so they had already established a strong bond, culture, and methodology for tackling academic and business problems. Penetrating that exterior shell was therefore pretty difficult for myself and another team member. And this connected with Tuckman's stages of group development, where our team already had an established subgroup within it. And that rapidly developed into a second subgroup with myself and the other team member. And this led to an avoidance of robust, cohesive, frank conversations that would come back to haunt us at a later moment. The other situation that made things difficult was my trip to Tahiti in Switzerland for work a month prior, which meant my ability and willingness to challenge the ideas of the group was pretty weak at times. The thought of being team leader and leading from all over the world to an already established team does not make for a pretty thought. I decided to use that to my advantage to an extent by telling the team of my schedule, letting them know that the time commitment and the travel commitment meant that my contributions to the exercise may be compromised somewhat. And also being the only male in a group of 5 people also meant that there were communication issues and different ways that we were picking up on emotional cues and even the words we used. I come from a highly masculine environment in professional sport, where there's a lot of toxicity, confrontation, pressure, very little compassion, patience, or self-awareness. So arguing, swearing, intimidation can be part of everyday conversations. Our study group was as far away from this world as you're likely to get. So what would that mean for how we were going to work together? Well, for me, I decided to dial back on the intensity of my communication with them and adapt to the prevailing cultural norms of the group. But in doing so, I sacrificed a degree of agency, and that meant that my contribution to solving the gift problem was not as it otherwise might have been. The group could have improved in the way that it engaged with the contributions I did make. I found an ally in my group through the other member who had not worked with Team 9 before, and we often stress tested our ideas together in a WhatsApp back channel, but of course it's an echo chamber and you have your own type of confirmation bias. While this is not ideal, it is a response, and what it led to, I think, ultimately to the presentation was that our team fractured very silently during the consultancy tour. And by not having confrontation with each other, yes, we got the work done, but was the quality compromised? And I think that that's open to debate. Belbin's work on team roles. Team 9's base group gravitated towards roles that they had already established over a year and a half previously, which has an effect. They believe that that way of doing things would yield maximum efficacy to get the job done, while I coalesced and adapted and molded myself to the reality of my work schedule and their work culture in order to help get the work done, not rock the boat, and be a good teammate and team member. Because of this established culture and because there's a lack of confrontation, I think there was a tendency towards self-congratulation, which means that expectations within the group of outcomes gets raised, but it's not based on any hard evidence. So one example emerged on the tour where one of our team was gently ribbing a member of another team about the perceived outcome of the presentations in terms of who finishes first and second. And I remember saying in that moment, I would be very careful about engaging in smack talk, when there's still 3 or 4 days to go. It was good natured, it wasn't edgy, sort of smack talk. But as we saw with the result, the team that won it was the team that we were sort of egging a wee bit. And I found that very interesting coming from a sporting environment, because although it's only a small observation, working with elite teams and competitive athletes at world-class standard, they don't engage in that type of discussion about outcomes. They're very respectful, they're very humble, and we could have shown and demonstrated some of that, but actually there was not a lot of humility within our group, because we weren't bringing each other's egos down in a careful, gentle way, which you can do, and I have experience of doing that in a sporting environment. So that was interesting. In evaluating the project work itself, I doubt there's much I would do very different faced with this challenge. It was a highly unique schedule for myself prior. In terms of actionable insights, I would most definitely call out my observations to the group in the future if I believe they would be of use. Like, we built trust and we communicated pretty well, but it was mostly to keep the harmony and get the job done. And so the key takeaway here for me is not so much about Team 9 and its adventure to the Middle East, but rather how I can use these sorts of insights and findings to do better in future work environments. I thought it would be a useful exercise to go back to the first assessment and take a look at what I thought would be the challenges. And one of the key ones that came out was Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions that can emerge in a team. There was lack of trust, fear of conflict, lack of commitment, avoidance of accountability, and inattention to results. And I think points 1, 2, and 5 were appropriate. I took away from the Middle East that connections and connecting with people and being respectful and interested in their cultures and in their business objectives and their values can open doors all over the world. It's something that plays very nicely into my current career in professional football. Everybody in the Middle East knows who FIFA is and what they do. Given that the World Cup was hosted in Qatar, I think the visits to Sponics and the New Zealand Embassy and Gift have yielded more fantastic networking opportunities, and there's some genuine interest already from that side of the table and perhaps what I have to bring. So it's clear to me that the impact of the Massey University EMBA study tour, combined with my presence on the FIFA Club Management Diploma course and as General Manager of Auckland City Football Club, everything's converged into almost the perfect moment for me. So I'm going to continue to have those discussions with the people that I've met, and can't wait to see what the future holds.